Well, this is a bummer. Ascendant Studios has laid off about 45% of its workforce just a few weeks after the launch of their very first game, Immortals of Aveum. This is a new single-player FPS game. It's not live service, it's not multiplayer, and instead of weapons, you shoot spells. It's pretty cool. It's like a wizard FPS game set in Unreal Engine 5, and EA gave me a code to play it, put in about 9 to 10 hours. I would say it's probably a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10 style game. Not incredible, but pretty cool. Unfortunately, the reason behind the layoff apparently is poor sales of Immortals. And we need to talk about these release windows because this year has been a massive year for games. All the way from Tears of the Kingdom into Baldur's Gate 3, now Starfield, you had Armored Core 6 in there. It's a big year of releases. And why? Immortals came out in the middle of that super competitive season. I will never understand. I have to imagine it's the publishers deciding these release dates, and I want to just scream at the top of my lungs, stop doing this. Single-player FPS games just don't get much attention these days, and I feel like it's really easy to blame games like Immortals of Aveum and say, look, poor sales, single-player games, we don't need those anymore. But the obvious answer to me is you released the game in probably the worst time window of the entire year. Two of the biggest releases ever are happening in this little tight time window, and you decide to release in the middle of it? Most of the friends that I talk to have never heard of Immortals before. I did a few sponsored posts for the game earlier this year on the channel because I thought the trailer looked cool, and I thought we need more unique and creative set pieces in the FPS space. And the game's not horrible. It is their first title, and this team, Ascendant Studios, they have over 100 employees, or they did before this layoff, we're pushing a game on new technology. It's one of the first Unreal Engine 5 games that we've gotten to see at the AAA style level. And unfortunately, it should have just released in the summer. Keep it away from Tears of the Kingdom's release, or springtime, typically lower hype release time window. And I think it would have done a lot better. It's not that complicated. These style games cannot compete with your Starfields, and they definitely aren't going to compete with a Baldur's Gate 3. So why do publishers keep doing this? Rewind the clocks back to Titanfall 2. It launched right in between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So of course, the game wasn't going to have the potential success that it could. How many more streamers would have checked out Titanfall or Immortals if they launched at time frames where there weren't these other behemoth games to go out and to cover? Now, my thoughts on Immortals are it's a pretty decent game. I'm not a huge fan of the art style. It's so incredibly busy that I think it's easy to get lost. Maybe that's my 2017 machine. The specs required to play Immortals is absurd. I mean, it's an Unreal Engine 5 game. It's the tip of the new technology. So you better be on the next gen consoles, I guess current gen, whatever you want to say now, or on a really dialed PC to experience it in the way that it's meant to be played. But again, this art style's not really my cup of tea. It's just got a lot going on. But the gameplay was creative and cool. You have 3 different main spell types and skill trees and all sorts of kind of rock, paper, scissors moments that you need to use within the battles. Again, nothing here was that mind-blowing. But for a team on their very first go out, they managed to make a AAA-looking shooter with a pretty small group. Around 100 employees, I'm going to guess is what it says, or over 100 before the layoff happens. That's decent, and I would have liked to see more from this universe. But publishers have got to start learning, stop doing this. You are sabotaging your own games. Now, if we're putting the tinfoil hat on, are publishers intentionally trying to sabotage games that don't have long-form monetization options? And this one you can debate in the comments. I don't know. It would not surprise me one bit if single-player only games like these are not at the top of the priority list for continuing support for, at least on the EA side of things, because it's not a cash cow. It's not a forever live service game that's going to get continuous updates and microtransactions and endless pits for people to sink money into. This is all the more reason why I'm so bummed when news stories like these come out. I want to support single-player only games that have good content released on day one and build from there, right? You don't need a never-ending live service model to succeed. This one is just unfortunately a bit of both, and I don't think you can blame the 6 out of 10 or the 7 out of 10 style review scores that the game is getting for why it maybe missed sales goals. It just is a bad release window, and this has got to stop happening. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about all of this. If you have tried Immortals, let me know what you think of the game down in the comments below. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again in the next video.